Do what you can to avoid these options on your fantasy football rosters. Today, we are breaking down 5 players who are coming off draft boards in the double-digit rounds that you need to avoid. But before we dig in, head over to 4from4.com, use promo code YouTube to get yourself 25% off any subscription plan.
The Pittsburgh Steelers select Roman Wilson, wide receiver,
Wolverine Palooza! Roman Wilson is going to Pittsburgh.
Though he was a fairly consistent dart throw for me in early best ball drafts, the reports out of training camp for Roman Wilson eventually cooled me. Back during Steelers OTAs, beat writers were saying that the third-round pick, quote, still needs to get up to speed at the NFL level, and mentioned that his ascension was paramount for the Steelers offense, with wide receiver being a glaring question mark of the roster. Things seemed to be going better in the early portions of training camp before he sprained an ankle in the team's first day in pads. Wilson remains in a boot and is considered week to week. Not a great sign for a player who seemed to have quite a few kinks to work out. With him sidelined, it would seem as if Van Jefferson is well on his way to locking in the wide receiver 2 role in the offense. If that is the case, the worry for how much time Wilson sees as a rookie is a very real concern. Last season with the Atlanta Falcons, Arthur Smith ran a majority of his offense with either multiple tight ends or 2 backs on the field. His first down 11 personnel, or 3 wide sets, clocked in at only 14%, easily the lowest rate in the league and 8% lower than the next team, the 49ers, who sat at 22%. If Wilson is not the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh, he could be nearly unusable in fantasy. So the preseason news hasn't been great, but there were already potential pitfalls in his game heading into year 1 to begin with. Wilson's small stature at 5'10", 185 pounds projects him for a lot of snaps on the inside, and his skill set might end up boxing him out of playing too many snaps on the perimeter as well. Per his reception perception profile, he finished as the 15th percentile against press coverage. Here's what RP's Matt Harmon had to say on the subject. Wilson's lack of size leaves him pretty overmatched at the line of scrimmage. Unless he's able to blow by a press corner, he usually gets locked up. He'll need to take pretty sizable technical leaps. Unlike some of the other small receivers in this class, he doesn't make up needed ground against off-man or zone coverage to explore a big role outside.
Dobbins in motion. They give it to him, and he gets in. 4th straight game with a touchdown.
Ever since coming out of Ohio State in the second round of the 2020 NFL Draft, J.K. Dobbins has been one of the biggest what-ifs in fantasy over the last half-decade. It's easy to forget, but he had a Devon Achane-level efficient rookie season, leading the league with a 6.0 yards per carry on the back of an amazing 43.2% breakaway run rate. Fantasy managers were more than excited to see him replicate and or build on that performance in year 2 before it was reported that he would undergo surgery to repair a torn LCL in September of 2021. He missed that entire season and 9 games in the following season, though he did notch 3 90-plus yard performances in 2022. Heading into the 2023 season, Dobbins' ADP had climbed up into the end of the 4th round. Visions of him speeding past defenses danced in our heads. And it even began to come to fruition in the form of a 4-yard touchdown plunge in the first quarter of week 1. In the third quarter of that same game, he suffered a torn Achilles. So now in present day, we have a back who has missed 43 out of a possible 67 games. He has followed former OC Greg Roman over to the Los Angeles Chargers, but it came at the lowest possible price for his new team. Despite all these red flags, Dobbins' ADP continues to climb over the last month, jumping from the 190s to the 150s in underdog drafts. Now going in the 13th round, and even coming off boards as the 10th round on some platforms, his selection as a low-floor, high-upside play is no longer cost-effective.
For the quarterback, deep drop, here comes the blitz. He flings it over the middle, yards after the catch. The Colts have it with Josh Downs inside the 40. He sprints up to the 30-yard line. Another big play for Josh Downs down to the Tennessee 30-yard line, gain of 25.
Early reports from training camp were no less than glowing for the second-year former third-round selection, Josh Downs. In a late July article from Colts beat writer James Boyd, he quotes OC Jim Bob Cooter as saying, quote, Josh is going to get his catches, going to get his targets, and he's going to earn some different sort of spots, some different sort of roles as he goes into developing. It was encouraging to hear as the slot receiver is coming off a good rookie season in which he hauled in 68 catches for 771 yards from his 94 targets, most of which, of course, came from Gardner Minshew. Downs was locked into 3 wide receiver sets, with Alec Pierce always lining up out wide and Michael Pittman Jr. moving around the formation. That role as a nearly every snap player was put into question when the Colts decided to once again address the wide receiver room through the NFL draft, selecting Adonai Mitchell with their 52nd overall pick. Mitchell developed into a vertical threat in his 1 year with Texas, using his great combination of size and speed to cause defenders headaches with teammates Xavier Worthy and tight end Jatavian Sanders. While Worthy and Sanders were the beneficiaries of underneath and RPO targets, most of Mitchell's damage came in the form of 9 routes and end breakers deep down the field. With that lack of layup targets, we can start to get an idea of why his statistical profile wasn't in the top echelon of this draft class. His profile as an X receiver seemed to complement Downs more than simply replacing him. With the positive buzz around Downs during training camp, that didn't seem like a possibility, but with most reports having Mitchell sitting behind Alec Pierce in the pecking order. Downs would have missed time with the team start to move Pittman into the slot more than his usual 25% rate. We might find out in the early portions of the regular season, as Downs suffered a high ankle sprain that should keep him out of action for 4 to 6 weeks or right up until opening weekend kickoff.
Still going. Pierce. Texans need it. Does Pierce have enough gas? He does! Touchdown, Houston!
With all the movement in the Houston Texans backfield this offseason, Dameon Pierce has been one of the only consistents. The team allowed Devin Singletary to walk in free agency while adding Joe Mixon and 6th-round rookie Jawar Jordan. Maybe because of his place on a great offense or possibly just in case of name recognition from his productive rookie season, drafters have increasingly been apt to take a flyer on Pierce in the late rounds. In the very early portions of the offseason, the running back was going mostly undrafted, but his ADP has climbed over 20 spots since then, and over on Underdog, that is sometimes creeping into the 16th round. While some nostalgic managers might remember his 1,100 total yard performance in 2022, they may have also forgotten his woefully inefficient 2023. Among 63 qualifying running backs, Pierce had the 5th lowest yards after contact average, while finishing 53rd in breakaway run rate and 60th in EPA per attempt. While the Texans didn't have the greatest run blocking unit last season, it's worth pointing out that Devin Singletary ranked 37th, 38th, and 34th respectively in those aforementioned metrics. Not fantastic, but certainly far better than his teammate. Joe Mixon hasn't been a model of rushing efficiency as of late either, but the team gave the 27-year-old a 3-year, $27 million contract a day after trading for him. Even if Pierce does grow in year 3, it seems doubtful that he will take a sizable chunk of the running back's share. Let someone else throw a dart at Dameon Pierce and use your late round selections to aim for someone with some upside.
Taking a shot for Darnell Mooney. What a catch! Absolutely incredible from Darnell Mooney.
There were highs and lows through Darnell Mooney's 4 years with the Chicago Bears, but the lows of the 2023 season were rock bottom. Before finishing the last 2 weeks in the concussion protocol, Mooney was a cog in the offensive implosion led by Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent, averaging 3.6 targets, 2.1 receptions, and 27.6 yards per game. While lining up in the slot a new career-high 65.4% clip, he had 12 weeks with less than 50 yards receiving and 5 games of 6 or fewer yards. 6. He has a chance to reemerge as a fantasy option with the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins, but how likely that will be is debatable. To begin with, the Falcons have 3 very strong candidates to earn an outsized chunk of the target share. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson each have a case to be made for getting the ball in their hands on a snap-by-snap basis. This puts Mooney's place in the offense as the 4th option, even if he is the no-doubt wide receiver 2. Over the last 2 seasons, the Bears had asked Mooney to line up out wide for 287 routes, or 36.8% of the time. This was a huge downturn from his first 2 seasons in the league, but how did he produce in those situations in 2023? Last year, while lining up out wide, Moore earned negative 0.02 EPA per target on throws that were deemed on target, helping to eliminate erratic throws. That ranked 106th out of 130 wide receivers. For comparison's sake, teammate DJ Moore finished 36th in that metric. So the Bears were probably onto something by leaving him in the slot, and we should imagine the Falcons doing the same, particularly with the season-ending injury to Rondale Moore. But that injury is likely to continue to push Mooney's draft cost even further up fantasy boards. Over the last month, the 5th-year wide receiver has jumped a full round in ADP, and it's climbing a few more spots every day. Mooney's lack of upside makes him a fade as a 3rd or 4th option in this passing attack. You have the late round options you need to avoid. Check out players you should target.